Happy New Year, losers! How many movies did you watch last year? And how many movies did you rewatch last year? If you're like me, that number is bigger than you'd like to admit. And if you're also like me, you're always on the hunt for new, obscure movies to keep you from rewatching the same films you've watched 100 times before. Which is where this video comes in. I really enjoyed recommending underrated movies last year, so I thought I'd do it again, because I've got a lot of them that are dying to be shared. So if you're looking for new movies to add to your likely ever-growing watch list, I've got 5 right here for you now. Okay, you get it. 5 underrated movies, blah blah blah. Let's do it. Kajillionaire is a 2020 crime comedy drama following Old Dolio, the adult daughter of 2 con artists who have spent their entire daughter's life training her to be the perfect accomplice to their petty crimes. Things get complicated for the family when they rope a charming stranger into one of their desperate cons. Kajillionaire is a movie I've been wanting to discuss on this channel for a while, but I never really knew exactly what I wanted to say about it because my feelings on it are best summarized by incoherent screaming into a pillow. When I watched it for the first time years ago, it broke me open, crawled into my chest, and has lived there ever since. So, because I can't form something profound to say about it, I suppose the next best thing is to encourage as many people as possible to watch it. Kajillionaire is so charming, and a big reason for its charm is because it's weird. I mean, the main character's parents named her Old Dolio after a homeless man who won the lottery in hopes he would put her in his will. The familial dynamic isn't exactly what you would call normal, considering they stay together through lies and scams. Old Dolio herself is quiet and awkward, an emotionally stunted woman who struggles to love her life and family, but also struggles to change her situation. Which is why the introduction of Melanie, an effervescent stranger who agrees to help the family with their latest scam, is such a slap in the face to Old Dolio. Melanie is a regular person. She's pretty, funny, excitable, and more importantly, she's gentle and kind and loving. In short, she's everything Old Dolio and her family are not, which means she's everything Old Dolio needs. At its core, Kajillionaire is about loving and being loved. It's about the way love, and the lack of it, builds us, shapes our psyches, harms us, and ultimately heals us. The strangeness of Kajillionaire should feel isolating. After all, I don't think many of us have experience with being scammers with our families, but it's that very strangeness that brings you closer to the story. It's proof that that old adage about how specificity in a story makes it universal is true. Though none of us can truly relate to Old Dolio, we can feel her every emotion, understand how she's become the person she is, and see how an unexpected connection with a stranger can start to unravel that person. In a single sentence, Kajillionaire is about learning the beauty of tenderness after a lifetime of not having it. It's weird, it's queer, it's everything I love. I actually can't believe I've only watched Kajillionaire once. I keep meaning to rewatch it and then never do, so I guess this is my sign that I finally need to revisit it. This movie is sweet and sad, it's funny and melancholic, and it's simply bursting with love. It's a shame that it's largely flown under the radar, because I think it'll speak to a lot of people out there. So if you're in the mood for quirky characters, a gorgeous score by Emile Mosseri, who also scored Minari, and, of course, lesbians, then give it a watch. It won't disappoint. Incendies is a 2010 Québécois film directed by Denis Villeneuve. It follows the journey of two twins who travel to their mother's home country in the Levant to discover their family's hidden history. Armed with two letters from their mother, one meant for their father and the other for their lost brother, the twins are faced with uncovering the ugly reality that civil war created for their family. Incendies was adapted from a 2003 play of the same name, written by the Lebanese-Canadian writer Waji Mawad. Parts of it were inspired by the real life of Soha Bechara, a Lebanese political prisoner who was detained in the infamous Khayyam detention center for her 1988 attempted assassination of Antoine Lahad, the leader of the Israeli-backed South Lebanon army. Okay, let's get this out of the way right up top. This movie is a difficult watch. It's not something that you can just throw on. Incendies is dark. It's twisted in ways that are hard to imagine, and it will likely leave you feeling hollow. Now, having said that, you need to watch this movie at least once in your life. By now, we all know that Denis Villeneuve is an incredibly talented filmmaker. Prisoners is a staple of the thriller genre. Arrival is one of my favorite films of his, and the Dune movies are phenomenal blockbuster perfection. But if you want to see him at what is arguably his best, look no further than Incendies. Is that controversial to say? I don't know. Incendies is slow and bleak. It takes its time telling its story and demands from you your full attention. It doesn't shy away from the hard moments, but rather forces you to sit with them and feel with the characters. The performances are all around stellar, which only makes each instance of fear, pain, confusion, and horror all the more present to the viewer. As Incendies progresses, apprehension and uncomfortability grow with it, until it all comes to a head and you are left with the same terror as the characters. It's good in a way that's difficult to describe. You just have to experience it. From what I can remember, there is no real score to this film. Rather, Incendies makes use of the Radiohead song You and Whose Army near its opening, which perfectly encapsulates the haunting story to unfold. Seriously, this song is one of the elements that makes this movie. I couldn't have chosen a better one if I tried. I don't want to say much more about Incendies because I genuinely think it's best to go in blind, as I did. If you like Denis Villeneuve, if you like family sagas and stories about the lasting trauma of armed conflict, then this one will be for you. Bad Genius is a 2017 Thai crime thriller set at a prestigious school where students have all of the opportunity in the world. Our main character, Lynn, is an incredibly bright scholarship student with a promising future set out for her. However, as her father struggles to make ends meet, she decides to establish a cheating syndicate in which she provides other students with exam answers in real time, for a hefty price. Bad Genius is actually inspired by a real-life SAT cheating scandal, which, is insane, but it makes for a super fun, thrilling movie. Bad Genius is just a delight. From the very beginning to the very end, it's a real ride. It's unique in its style and presentation, and is fast-paced enough to keep you on the edge of your seat. It's a breath of fresh air in the genre of crime thrillers, as it knows that its appeal is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. On the contrary, actually. Bad Genius is funny, over the top, and greatly dramatic. It has such an enthralling energy, just thinking about it is making me want to watch it again. The performances are overall great. Everyone plays off each other really well, and the dynamics between the characters are a major reason this movie is as fun as it is. You have your bright, down-on-their-luck students, and your rich, less-than-intelligent kids having to work together to make this scheme work, and it makes for some exciting setups that propel the story forward at an exhilarating speed with breakneck force. There is some shoddy acting from English speakers near the end, but it's not so overbearing that it ruins the experience. experience. Really, I cannot stress to you enough how much fun I had with this movie. I've seen it twice, it was awesome both times, and I'm probably gonna watch it again sometime soon because it's just that good. So if you're in the market for something thrilling and fun, and you have a guilty pleasure for stories about academic dishonesty or dark academias as I do, I suggest Bad Genius. It's on Netflix, so neglect your course load, grab a snack, and give it a watch. Also, the main characters, Lynn and Grace, are absolutely in love, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Okay? Okay. Badhaai Do is a 2022 Hindi language film following Shardul and Sumi, a gay cop and a lesbian teacher who enter into a sham marriage in order to please their overbearing traditional families. If you're not super familiar with Hindi films or Bollywood, but you'd like to get into them, I think Badhaai Do is a good jumping off point. It has a lot of the same charm as traditional Bollywood, with musical montages, well-timed humor, and a healthy dose of over-the-top drama. But it's also modernized as it moves away from the soapy melodrama and treats its more serious moments in a realistic, grounded fashion. There's a moment in this movie right before the climax that was so visceral to me, I kept thinking about it for days later. The perspectives from which it was filmed and the deafening silence they chose to go with really shook me. It might be the best scene in the film, closely followed by the climax. Of course, Badhaai Do employs a tried and true formula. Guy and girl start a fake relationship, but it flips it on its head as Shardul and Sumi don't fall in love with each other. Obviously they don't, they're both queer as hell. So it's really fun to see a story that's so familiar through a new lens. And not only that, but seeing this movie come out of India is so heartening, as the social issues and relationship dynamics represented in it are very present for millions of people in India and around the world. I actually wrote on Badhaai Do for a university magazine a couple years ago, and I think Past Me did a pretty good job of discussing this element of the film, so allow me to quote Past Me. Badhaai Do offers Shardul and Sumi so much empathy. Not only do we feel for them as their lie gets harder and harder to uphold, but we also empathize with them in the quieter moments of the film, which happen to be some of its most powerful. The two engage in a number of poignant conversations that shine much needed light on the ups and downs of living as a queer person. The pain of not being able to adopt children, the sadness of people and relationships leaving you behind, the fear of being misunderstood, and the closeness felt in the community as a result of finally being understood. While the film is a celebration of queer relationships and assurance that the culture is changing for the better, it is also a critique of traditional culture and a reminder that there is so much work yet to be done. In this sense, Badhaai Do is not so much a traditional rom-com as it is a look into the complexities of love. I was pleasantly surprised by how much this film affected me. You can tell there was real care taken in telling this story, and everyone involved did a fantastic job bringing it to life. I do want to say that, at times, Badhaai Do can feel like a queer movie made for straight people, in the sense that it's a story attempting to humanize this subsect of society to the dominant culture. So if you're looking for a really profound and subtle dissection of the deeper elements of the queer experience, you won't really get that from this movie. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Badhaai Do is a gateway. It's a stepping stone for those profound, subtle stories to be told in the future. And for that reason, it's quite special. So go give it a watch. It's on Netflix, and unlike Incendies, you can just throw it on a Wednesday night and have a great time. Beach Rats is a 2017 drama following Frankie, a young man with no job, no future prospects, and no drive, as he wastes away his summer days smoking with his friends, talking to girls, and meeting older men online. Beach Rats is the second film written and directed by Eliza Hittman, who is probably best known for her 2020 drama Never Really, Sometimes, Always, which is another film I really loved and may discuss one day. If you've seen Never Really, Sometimes, Always, then you'll be prepared for what Beach Rats has in store for you. Beach Rats is a very quiet, very small, slice-of-life style film that doesn't have much to offer by way of plot, but is not hindered by that at all. Rather, what it lacks in a solid plot, it makes up for in strong character work and thematic exploration. From the very beginning of the film, we understand that Frankie is closeted and that his environment is not conducive to life as a queer man. His family is on the verge of tragedy, and his friends are bastions of unemotional, indelicate masculinity and heterosexuality, which is reflected in Frankie's own psyche. Seriously, this group of boys are walking red flags. Your best bet is to run in the opposite direction. But Frankie's projection of heterosexual masculinity is understandable. It's in direct contrast with his deepest desires of sex and companionship with other men. This movie does such a good job of depicting the harm that the expectation of being traditionally masculine has on men. Expectations they internalize in their youth and then carry into their adulthood, which effectively traps them in a vicious cycle of loneliness, self-hatred, and shame. Beach Rats is not a fun movie to watch. It's an hour and 40 minutes of a young man feeling immeasurable pain, sadness, and yes, shame. I felt kind of sick watching it at times, because in many ways, it's a tragedy. You just want to reach through the screen to give Frankie a hug and tell him it's going to be okay. But though it's not exactly fun to watch, it's a gut punch, and I think it'll particularly affect anybody who has bought into that machine of masculinity and heteronormativity in their youth. I read through a bunch of Letterboxd reviews after watching it, and it seems that many people identified with this film and with Frankie for the reasons I spoke about. And for that alone, I'm glad it was made. By the way, Beach Rats was Harris Dickinson's first feature film role, and he is so good in it. He really puts himself out there for this movie, and it paid off. He absolutely carries this film. He captures every moment so poignantly. Beach Rats was actually my last film of 2024. I had to watch more Harris Dickinson after Baby Girl, as one has to, and I'm happy it was. It's incredibly underrated, and it deserves so much more love. And there you have it. Those are 5 more underrated movies that you need to watch ASAP. I didn't realize that most of the films on this list are queer in some way until I started writing the script. I didn't intend this, but when you're an avid consumer of queer fiction like I am, it's bound to happen. Let me know if you've seen any of these or if I convinced you to try any of these out. They're all great. They all have very different tones that will satisfy different cravings, so keep them in mind the next time you're looking for something new to watch. That's it from me now. I'll see you in my next one, which will hopefully not be 8 months from now. Okay, I'm gonna go let my cat back into the room because she's begging and it breaks my heart. Bye bye.